Well, let's get talking now. Efforts to rid the country of economic saboteurs and curb crude oil theft is gaining ground as controversial government contractors and all of that. Called Tompolo. Yes, he is the leader of the Niger Delta, the former leader of the Niger Delta Emancipation. Now, they've discovered another illegal oil pipeline used to siphon crude oil. It appears the contract awarded by the federal government to the ex-militant to end crude oil theft in Nigeria is yielding desired results. This latest discovery comes about 1 week after intelligence reports from his men had enabled security operatives to uncover 58 illegal tapping points in Delta and Bayelsa states through which illegal bunkers steal the crude oil. It will be recalled that the managing director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Mr. Mele Kyari, had revealed that Nigeria had been losing 600,000 barrels of oil per day to theft, posing a threat to the country's economic survival, as the country still largely depends on petrodollar. For more analysis and, of course, insights on this, I am being joined by via Zoom by an energy analyst and a lawyer too, Dr. Ayodele Oni. Dr. Oni is also the commercial lawyer and practice at Bloomfield Law Practice. Thank you so much. It's good to have you on the show this Monday afternoon.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you so much.
I know we've gone this route before, but let me say that how worried are you or how concerned are you with regards to all of this development? We can go on and on telling you that 395 illegal refineries have been deactivated at the moment, 274 reservoirs destroyed, and 1,561 metal tanks. We can go on and on with these figures. How worried or concerned are you about this development?
I've been quite concerned. I think that concern should even begin to wane now because of all of these discoveries. I guess one shouldn't be as concerned as one would have been a few months ago. But generally, one should be concerned because when you have a country, you should have the monopoly of force by government, monopoly of certain things. Crude oil is the country's mainstay in terms of revenue, in terms of even resources, generally speaking, forex income and all of that. And it's controlled or should be controlled by government. So it's a bit concerning that you find out that there's so much happening around there, so much leakage, so much theft, so much other stakeholders that are not even known to government. So I think it is concerning, but I think I'm not as bothered as I was months ago because, I mean, at that point, we're losing so much in terms of number of barrels of oil per day. But with these new discoveries, we may be making progress. Of course, you may also be concerned from a point of view that people we're definitely aware of all of this. Some people must be aware because, I mean, many of the points of theft were not created by non-experts. They were done by people who have experience, who understand the system. I doubt that it was by people in those communities alone. It must have been done in consonance with more experienced people, experts in that case.
Exactly. So that's where my second question will come from, because it looks clearly like this is well planned out, because it's not just anybody that would go to rupture a pipeline. So what more can be done with regards to, I don't want to use the word punishment here, but getting to the root of this? Of course, many will say there are even some internal support or some intel coming from inside, and people get all of these informations and know when to strike. So where do you think this stops? Just shutting down the pipelines, destroying the ships and all of that. Do you think that ends it all?
Well, I don't think that suffices. If you don't punish people and do that transparently and do it in such a manner that you reach some reasonable conclusion, clear conclusion as to what's happened, who's responsible, or a number of those who have been responsible for this, then you are telling others to also look for creative ways of stealing. and then if their infrastructure equipment for stealing is found, they will go scot-free. But if you do ensure that people are brought to book, then you then will be making sure that there's some form of deterrence. Otherwise, you're sure it's going to be business as usual. Particularly when you hear information like some of these have been going on for 10 years, 9 years, all sorts. Then, I mean, if you look at the equipment, the badges, all of that used for these processes, you know that there's a lot of conspiracy. It's not one person, it's not a couple of people, it's organized crime, as far as I'm concerned. So I think government does need to bring certain people to book, or otherwise you wouldn't be deterring others, you know. And I think some of what government is doing now, like working with locals, is what should have been done several years ago. I understand there were similar contracts, but I think there's a high scale insincerity somewhere. But it's not at the lowest level. It's probably at the highest level. There's some insincerity that we all aren't aware of.
Why is it looking like it's at a point where the NNPC has become a limited liability company? That is when they are now waking up to fighting this issue of all theft, because, you know, the company has to be accountable to 200 million Nigerians. It's looking like there's a renewed fight at the moment.
Yes, that's concerning for me. It's a situation where you discover that those who ought to do their jobs haven't performed their jobs as they ought to. Because if you look at the way pipeline systems forces to maybe past or present staff of some of these companies, even some of the IOCs. So I think that it's not just it's not as simplistic as we think. You know, if something's been going on and you have large ships come to take crude oil, then it speaks volume of the extent of conspiracy. You know, it's not a pin, a ship, even a boat isn't a pin that security forces and those who ought to play a role will not see. So I think there's much more to this entire thing that meets the eye. And it's surprising that it's coming at this time, though. Yeah. I do not think it's anything around NNPC's change of structure. I think it's probably also the renewed contract for government. I mean, that's what Tompolo is. That's his first name. Yeah. I think the fact that they've renewed this contract, he probably is trying to show that he can deliver on the goods. That's what I see, more than a change from NNPC being a corporation to a limited liability company. I'm not sure that change is the reason for this, to be honest. I think there's a grander conspiracy or a grander reason for this.
Okay, moving on. 395 illegal refineries looks like something very serious to me. Now, most of these illegal refineries, I don't know if I've asked you this question before now, what more can be done instead of totally deactivating them? Can anything be done to accommodate them? How far with our modular refineries?
Okay, so remember that the oil and gas industry is heavily regulated. It would also not speak well. So it depends. You can look at it from 2 points of view. One point of view is that if you're going to do anything in the sector, there should be regulation. Otherwise, you would have chaos. That's one point of view. The other point of view is that if people have been ingenious, if they've been creative, then you may bring them within regulation. So it depends on what angle from which you look at it. It could also be that if you license them, then you're telling other people to do what's wrong and hope that they can then ratify that illegality, so to speak. So I think it will depend on how you look at it. But as things stand, I mean, at times people, you'd have to think it through and then take a decision that works at that point in time. I think at this point in time, it may be a situation where some of them are licensed. You find out what they have in place for those that have been discovered, what they have in place, and then they could form a group, and then you license them as a group. That's one angle. The other option is to do away with that. But you may be able to increase our taxes. It may be physically more attractive to the government to license them instead. And there may be single product refineries. There may be dual product refineries. You need to sit down and think this through properly. I'm not an advocate of taking decisions on the whim. You need to sit down, do your analysis, and then take a decision in the best interest of the average Nigerian. And those are the 2 points of view. Completely doing away with them or bringing them within the regulatory ambit, because it could then also mean that government will generate revenue. Because one thing we're trying to do is to refine more in country, and that's an important thing we need to take into consideration. We need to refine more locally, because that will improve our balance of trade and balance of payment. Because it wouldn't make sense to continue to export crude and continue to import white products or finished petroleum products. So I think you can look at it from those 2 points of view. But I would select the second point of view. Have a cutoff, regulate, bring them within the ambit of regulation and tax them.
Okay, let's now look at all of this on OPEC and, of course, our quota. We expect, I think even the Shell Focados is coming back on board, and about 100 or some thousands, hundreds of thousands of barrels are expected from that field too. So do you think we'll do better when it comes to petrodollar, one way or the other?
Yes, I think we should do better. If you look at, it was in the news today, I think earlier today, about Norway making excess profit from its oil and gas because of the same issue, the Russia-Ukraine war, the challenges in Europe around energy security. It's something we should be benefiting from. Same for Saudi Arabia, Saudi Aramco, and a number of oil producers. So I think we should do more. The challenge has always been, if you don't produce, then you can't sell and you can't make more petrodollars. So with the arrangement with the locals and with the Focados coming on stream, we can begin to generate more income from export of our crude, because you'd have more people come online. A number of oil companies, exploration and production companies, have shut in because of these issues. You wouldn't imagine a situation where you produce X barrel of oil and you have 80% of it, anywhere between 20 and 80% of it is lost. That's the information you get, depending on whose statistics you listen to. So that's bad. And you can look at it. I understand between January and July this year, we've lost about $10 billion from crude oil theft. So imagine that comes back to the country, and then we can use it for developmental projects and those other things we need. Budget deficit and all of those challenges and issues around our expenditure or our debt servicing nearly exceeding our income. So that's crucial. With the Focados coming on stream and what government is doing with government being the individual, Tompolo and other locals, I think we should see more progress.
I'm already projecting now, looking at an outlook for the entire space. Yes, we still look at our petrodollar, where some are already thinking of transition, energy transition. That's the discussion everywhere, moving away from fossil fuel and all of that. Are we ready to tag along? Or are we still working? Or are we still a work in progress? What do you think?
Well, we're work in progress. I'm of the view that we shouldn't necessarily tag along. I think we should negotiate what works for us too. I think that gas, and that's government's thinking, gas should be our transition fuel. Whilst gas is our transition fuel, we should begin to work with renewables. But I'm not one to say we join the bandwagon, because what I've noticed that the West does is the West negotiates what works for them. Very recently, you must have seen in the press, the West considering gas now as transition fuel. And part of the reasons will be the challenges around energy security Europe is facing. The moment they get over that, then the conversation changes. So I think we too should negotiate what works for us. Yes, we should keep our eyes on the ball, on net zero, energy transition, all of that. I think that's crucial. The world will transition at some point. But I think at the moment, we should make the most of what we've got. Energy security, whether it's security of energy demand or security of energy supply, both are crucial, one. Secondly, you should negotiate what you want. No one gives you or gives it to you on the plate. You need to negotiate. Thirdly, we need to even be more productive. As we become more productive, it makes it easier for us to even negotiate within the African continent, you know. We've got the African Union. We can negotiate what we want. We can do intercontinental trade, you know, in terms of our natural resources. Europe does need our gas. I'm sure you've heard about the pipeline to Morocco and to the rest of Europe. It's something that the 4 MOUs government signed recently. So I believe the world will get to a point where gas will continue to play a critical role as the influence of crude wanes. But I think whilst we're at that, we should continue to also work around transitioning. But I'm not one that believes that we should join the bandwagon necessarily. We should negotiate what works for us. And as long as we can be productive ourselves, we will have a say in how the world treats energy.
Well, it's a good way to end the conversation. There I've been speaking to commercial lawyer partner at Bloomfield Law Practice. He's an energy analyst and of course, energy lawyer, Dr. Ayodele Oni, also a writer. Thank you so much. Do enjoy the rest of your day. I appreciate your time on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Enjoy the rest of your day too. Bye.
Oh.